Okay, so yeah, I'm going to talk a little bit about value-added services, which seems to be the sort of theme of the morning, and sort of give an Akixi perspective on it, try and sort of stay away from a product pitch, to sort of talk about our market experiences, how we see things. So in terms of value-added services, I think Patrick had a slide at the beginning showing the number of players that have come in to the sort of PSTN enablement market. That's kind of a good thing and a bad thing, right? The good thing is, obviously, there's more choice for the enterprise who might be adopting those services. The bad thing is that you're getting more players in, you're getting more competition, and that's putting pressure on price points. And I think in discussions with Patrick, we did a webinar a little while back, and he said something like 30% drop in PSTN access into things like direct routing and operator connect over the last 2 years, right? And that's an issue, and it is not going to go away as you get more players coming into market, be it Cloud Connect, the Zoom equivalent, or Teams Operator Connect. You're going to see more and more of that pressure. So price pressure, plus then you're going to have to look at how you differentiate around that. So it's not going to be like we had in the market 10 years ago. Everybody's making decent money off reselling BroadSoft licenses, Metaswitch licenses, etc. It's now pretty much a hyper-player market where you're trying to add value around those players. So I think before we had the poll around, where are the opportunities? And I think most of us in this room are very much a sort of product-centric business. And you need to look at the product capability that you add around those PSTN enablement services. And I think we've touched on a few of those as we've gone through. I'll talk about that a little bit as we go through the session. I'd also like to pick up on Paul's point where he said, well, where's the opportunities with Microsoft and Zoom and Cisco constantly innovating? There are ways and means of adding value into that and looking at where the gaps are. And I think it's the gap thinking that you need to look at most closely. That will provide significant opportunity in what we've seen in market as well. So there's a big opportunity around product features. The sense from the market in terms of the Cavell enterprise study was that value-added services will be one of the main areas that will build out additional value going forward. So from an Akixi perspective, this is the only product slide I have in the entire deck. We offer a range of contact center solutions. We came from a Cisco pedigree heritage, some could say legacy from this morning. And we provide capabilities around call reporting, which we're most well known for. We have very accurate call reporting around a number of the different telephony platforms. You can extend that into light contact center based use cases. Last year, we purchased Mondago, which give us CRM integration back into the phone system infrastructure. Something like 85% of businesses over about 7 seats have some form of CRM system. So if you're looking at differentiation, having CRM integration is quite an important one to link into those business apps. And then most recently, we announced a partnership with Oak to do call recording in the Teams environment, which we will be bringing back into our data infrastructure over time. Today we announced an integration with Scipio, and I'll come on to that and why it's important as we go through the presentation. But they provide a lot of that front-end portal, user management, provisioning, automation, which we then take advantage of to ensure that our services are implemented quickly from an end-user perspective and the journey's fast and the experience is good. We do the similar thing with NetAccess, and it is a bit of a focus from my perspective to extend that across the entire marketplace, be that the industrial solutions, but also we see quite a number of customers looking to build that themselves as part of their own solution and value-added market. Okay, so in terms of value-added service options, this is a slide I think I put together with Patrick for a webinar about a couple of months ago. which talks through the various different options that are out there today. And we're actively working with service providers. We probably have about 20 at the moment, both in the Cisco and the Microsoft Teams environment, where we're building a suite of value-added services with them to then take out and attach onto Operator Connect or things like direct routing, Cisco Cloud Connect, and so on. And in that, you see the typical ones. So there'll be call recording, call reporting, a contact center type solution, CRM integration, and then most recently we've seen a little bit of handset as a service. We won't do that, but I thought I'd sort of include it in terms of an information point. And you combine all of those things together to increase the revenues associated with the service, and we'll look at an example of that in the next slide. But I'll try and sort of give you an idea of how this is sold. So I was talking to a large legal chain last week. They have about 1,000 employees. They're running on Teams Operator Connect. And so their business is one of handling what they call group claims. So that would be something like the VW emissions scandal. And what they would do is they run multiple advertising campaigns out into fields. So that could be on print media, digital, Sky TV, etc. And then you get inquiries that come back in, and they basically have a like contact center type solution handling each one of these claims with overflow capability on it and so on. And literally they would have something like 100 call queues sitting within Teams being serviced by multiple individuals. And so they have a need for a like contact center. They have a need for call recording because obviously there's some quite sensitive information that's being exchanged, and they need to have compliance capability associated with it. And they also need call reporting because they need to understand if they run a campaign on Sky in a particular area, what is the response rate? What's the return on investment associated with that? And do they then need to add in additional capability to service overflow claims? All right. So the solution provider in question has put this together, and they're basically stacking these various different value-added services on top of Teams. I think it is Operator Connect, to provide the complete solution for that particular practice. The other thing actually was interesting is they're going to take advantage of things like user management. And the reason for that is that on any given month, they tend to upscale, downscale paralegals by about 50 people. And so one of the problems they have is user management. So adding 50 people, taking away 50 people, across all the various different licensing that they have, they need to make that as easy as possible for their IT group who are quite stretched. So user management is actually quite a value-added piece, especially to larger organizations who are seeing a lot of fluidity in terms of what they're managing. So now let's sort of bring this home and take a look at what that looks like from a business case perspective. This is one which I worked with a service provider probably about 2 weeks ago. It's a European service provider. They are already in market with Operator Connect. They have direct routing as well. And they will at some point probably have Teams Phone Mobile. So that probably narrows it down a little bit. And in this case, we modeled out 2 value-added services attaching onto their assumed take rate for Operator Connect in market, plus also the impact it would have via Teams Phone Mobile. So they'd be attacking into the existing Teams base for Teams Phone Mobile, plus they would also be getting incremental business from Operator Connect. So as you can see here, this was about 130,000 seats over 4 years. I think their normal take rate is about 20% of the market. And as you can see, the value-added services, this is just 2 value-added services, increased revenues by about 65% over the term of the model. Okay, so that's about 4 years. So the total delta in terms of revenues was about 12.5 million. So this makes quite a big difference to the the service business case. And if you start to stack in more services as you go along, then you get more opportunity to grow revenues with it. Of course, you then need to look, I think, per the question earlier about margin dilution. All of these services are going to come in at well north of 40 points of native margin, which will obviously boost what you're taking from the PST and access revenues. Okay, so how do we see these things going forward? And I'm sort of take a little bit of a tangent at this point. So if you look at your iPhone, your Android device, chances are you've got a ton of different apps on there which help you in terms of health, okay? And those various different apps typically are uncoordinated. And this kind of goes back to what Taimur was talking about this morning, how the likelihood is you're going to move away from a sort of app-centric view to something which is far more agent-orientated and personalized, okay? So if I take the example of, what we got here, Garmin Connect, the Whoop, which is, advertised everywhere, just before Christmas, Apple Health, Oura Ring, etc. They're all picking up data from you, some are better than others, and then using that to provide you insight about what your health is like. If you're sort of someone who's just using it day to day, you have population health things, so it's either UK or US centric, and it'll sort of tell you how you do relative to the sort of medium. If you're sort of Garmin orientated, the chances are you're going to use it for a sort of athletics of some type or some sort of sport. And this is where you start to see some of the interesting things. You can take the same set of data almost, put it through Apple Health, and it'll tell you you're doing really well. Put it through Garmin, it'll tell you the exact opposite, okay? Because it's basically comparing you to a different type of model between the two. And this is kind of an instruction for our industry as to what we do going forward. And I think what we're seeing is that we're going to take in a lot of data from all of these various different value-added services, and then we're going to start to combine it, okay? And so the combinations can start giving you insight around general guidance, okay? So, how many people do I need in the legal environment to service 50 different group claim inquiries, okay? How many would I need Monday to Friday? How many would I need potentially over the weekend? What's the variance in there? And then you get more and more nuanced around the use case, and then ultimately it's going to be focused towards vertical specific opportunities. And I think this is where, I'll pick up Paul's question around, where are the opportunities? Microsoft Copilot always demos really well, right? It's a great piece of software engineering, but it's really expensive. And, some customers will find that they need a little bit of it, but they don't want to pay $30 per user per month. And you're seeing a lot of resistance in market around that. There's actually a really good Business Insider report around that. You can go and have a look for it. Looking at where the resistance is in AI-based solutions and specifically around Copilot. So the opportunity for us is to look at these value-added services and then target them in on known gaps which either exist in terms of functionality, but also exist in terms of the commercialization gap that someone like a Cisco or a Microsoft has left open. Okay, so if you're looking at things such as, say, call queues, all right, you need Teams Premium to be able to take advantage of some of that. So you need to have something which may be more focused around providing a light contact center solution, which is within the price point which most customers are willing to pay. So these are the things that we're doing inside Akixi, is to take some of those value-added services and specifically target them at either specific in use cases where we know there's customer receptiveness and the right price point, or secondly, we're taking them into typical verticals where we know that we can combine capability with a particular solution, add in CRM capability to link into, let's say, a motor retail environment and provide them a more coherent solution than they could get from a sort of general capability. So, how does all of that sort of fit together? I think where we're at today in terms of value-added services, you've got the discrete stuff going out as service suites into market. And I think the next phase on from that, which Pinko showed pretty well earlier on, is marketplace. I think there is some challenges around marketplace because some of these value-added services interact with one another. So you've got to be quite careful as to how you actually manage the customer journey around that, especially if you're looking at more nuanced capability as you look through the solution set. Third, then, I think, which is, we're seeing this next year, we're going to be taking a range of those value-added services, the data out of them, putting them together within a combined UI, and then having a set of AI capabilities sitting on top of that, which will fix specific use cases that we're seeing coming from field. So we understand what our customers are looking at in terms of reports and the analytics associated with that, and we're going to automate some of that capability with AI. And then as we take that forward, we're going to learn more and more about certain verticals, and then we'll start to tune those AI models to ensure that they meet those requirements, be that healthcare, be that motor retail, be that legal. So we're starting to build some of that knowledge already, but what we'll be doing over the next couple of years or so is to increasingly automate that within the solution set coming from Akixi. So with that, I think I'm more or less on time, a little bit over, apologies. We have a value-added service solution suite. One of the things we're trying to do is combine that on a single platform, which optimizes the cost so you can get the unit cost of production down, building out AI insights around it, and then ultimately taking that forward into a range of vertical tuning, which will hopefully provide more value in market over time. So with that, apologies, I've taken 5 minutes out of your lunch break. I'll hand back to Matt, who I think is just going to wrap up the session from this morning stroke earlier this afternoon.
Big thanks, Mike. That was really interesting. Thank you very much.